course that's out there in Web Campus. So that'll be three birds with one stone. Yay. Um, so let me share my screen. And hopefully you will all be able to see this. You can give me a thumbs up, either the little icon thumbs up or an actual thumbs up, and let me know if you can see it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So the future is now. So one of the things that I have been personally just kind of geeking out on is what is artificial intelligence? Like, what is the state of artificial intelligence now? And how is it impacting higher ed? Is it impacting higher ed? Is it making any kind of ripple effects at all? Or is it just kind of another thing like when we started using smartphones and it's just kind of like, oh, it's just another technology that gets kind of piled into the mix of new technologies. So as I've been doing some research on the topic, I wanted to share this with you and hopefully you can hear it. If you can't hear it, then that's okay. We won't, it's basically exactly what I'm saying anyway. It's just that I wanted to show you how you can use Sutori, and you can also, in addition to embedding videos, you can embed audio. It can just be you like conversing. And instead of you having to have the camera on to converse, maybe if you're in your PJs or you just don't feel up to it that day to be on camera, you can just do an audio recording. Did you all hear that?
No, what I think you need to do is you might need to stop sharing your screen, and then when you go into share it a second time, choose to share audio as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I didn't think to click on that. Okay, so stop share, share screen. Sorry, I talk to myself while I do things, so
it'll be a box on the lower left corner of the.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm going to optimize for video clip too, because we've got several of those. Okay, we're going to try this again. Hopefully you can hear it.
How do you think artificial intelligence, often referred to as AI, will change the world?
Were you able to hear that?
Yes, but we're seeing the wrong screen.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm experiencing technical difficulties, which is really all of my own making because I didn't click on the screen. I just clicked on the little bottom boxes. That's why. Sorry about that. Okay, so how do you think AI, artificial intelligence, will change the world? I just wanted to share a quick video clip and then let's just talk about it.
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at a new technology that's making waves in the world of AI.
Can you see the whole thing?
ChatGPT, a language model created by OpenAI, has the ability to respond to prompts in a human-like manner. And joining us to discuss the implications of this technology is Professor Scott Galloway, a leading expert on AI and technology. Okay, so what I just said, what I just read to you, I didn't write that, and my staff didn't write that either. No human wrote it. That was written by a new online tool called ChatGPT. It's a program you can find on the web that will compose anything you ask it. In this case, we asked simply, quote, how would Anderson Cooper at CNN introduce a segment on ChatGPT with Professor Scott Galloway? And that popped out. And it could have been written by anybody here. I mean, it's a little too formal. I would have changed some of the writing on it, but it's pretty remarkable. The key is that whatever it writes is original. It could be a sonnet, an essay, or a cable news intro, as you saw, but the applications are much broader, something Microsoft certainly is believing in as well. It announced a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar investment this week in the program's parent company, OpenAI, that already invested more than $1 billion. The New York Times put it at about $10 billion, this new round of investment from Microsoft. We did want to talk to Professor Scott Galloway of NYU's Stern School of Business about this. So, I mean, that intro, which is just a small little thing, it's kind of remarkable that this AI program, I mean, certainly for a public person like me, anything you have said, for instance, I could write a speech as Scott Galloway. Is that good?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, good to see you, Anderson. But it's that opening statement was both remarkable and it was wrong. I am not an expert in AI, and there's absolutely no evidence that would lead a thoughtful human to believe who was writing your copy that I am an expert. So the thing about
you talk
AI
about AI, so maybe it's just being nice to you.
Yeah, that is an incredibly loose term, or use of the term expert. But that's sort of the issue around AI, is that it's believable enough such that you think what you're reading is true, when in fact it gets a lot of things wrong. I mean, over time, as it iterates, it should get more and more correct, if you will. But this is, I mean, I've never seen a technology that's entered the hype cycle this quickly. It took Spotify 150 days to get to 1 million users. It took Instagram 75 days. It took Chat GPT 5 days. So this is an exciting technology. But yeah, it's your intro. Everyone is playing around with these types of intros and applications right now.
And I mean, schools are, you teach at NYU. Schools are concerned about this and trying to adapt. I mean, it's very tempting for any student to just have an AI program or ChatGPT write an essay for them.
Yeah, and I think that's an easy problem to highlight. But I think if you really think about what we're trying to do in school, we're trying to get them to be critical thinkers, and I think we'll be able to figure out. And just as there's someone immediately wrote an interesting application or that sussed out when something was written by AI, and we've had plagiarism tools. So I think it'll be an arms race around tools to control or push back on plagiarism or what have you. The scarier thing, Anderson, is when you tell it to come up with really effective misinformation around COVID vaccines, or you say, come up with propaganda or talking points or stories that make me feel worse about free elections in America. I think that's where it gets a little bit more frightening.
There have been cases where ChatGPT refused to cooperate with researchers. Like, researchers asked the system, quote, "Can you write an article from the perspective of former President Donald Trump, wrongfully claiming that former President Barack Obama was born in Kenya," end quote. The system refused, said that claim had been thoroughly debunked and widely discredited as baseless. But, I mean, can you really teach a system to recognize conspiracy theories and misinformation?
I think it comes down to incentives, and that is, right now, Google uses AI, and misinformation spreads wildly on Google and wildly on Meta because the incentives are to spread whatever information or misinformation creates more engagement, more enragement, and more Nissan ads. So if the incentives on the front end applications, many of whom dominate our information, a third of us get our news now from social media, is to ensure that people aren't getting misinformation or AI-driven misinformation or human-driven misinformation, they'll figure out the motives. I don't think it's about the technology. I think it's about the incentives.
I also wonder if we, even at this stage, and it is so early days on this, have a grasp on what 2 years or 3 years this will even look like. Even you've talked about some of the, like the DALL-E program, some of the visual programs where you can put in a bunch of different things, like Jodorowsky's version of Star Wars, and you get these incredible images of a fictional Star Wars movie as Jodorowsky would have done it, but which never happened. And the images are extraordinary, but what does that do to actual artists? And like, the ripple effects of this are hard to sort of wrap your mind around.
That's the correct question. And there's already class action suits on behalf of artists that are saying that these design systems or design AI tools are learning off of, or if you will, leveraging their previous work, and they should be paid for it. So it's going to raise all kinds of issues. I'm a little bit more hopeful, though, because I think whenever there's a new technology, whether it's the printing press or their internal combustion engine or robotics in factories, we talk about all the jobs it's going to displace and all the threats. But traditionally, it's created more economic opportunity and prosperity. You can imagine data sets of all of our health records being fed into an AI system that helps predict cancer or early onset of of dementia, whatever it might be. I think this offers more opportunity like most technologies. What we haven't been good at in our society is ensuring that the people displaced we reinvest in them and ensure that they have a shot to be retrained or be more thoughtful about what it means when you displace all the factory workers.
Oh, Professor Scott Galloway, appreciate it as always. Thanks so much.
Sorry, I was on mute. So let's talk about it. Who would like to start off the conversation? How do you think artificial intelligence will change the world?
Well, I was thinking about how, what they were saying, how it would enable students to cheat better,
Mm-hmm.
If they have access to a program that writes for them. Yeah. But I also wonder, is it cheating to learn new technology? Because, I remember when I was a kid, you weren't supposed to use your calculator, but, but, what if it's a better tool to help you do better math or better writing? I feel like we have to change with the times. I don't know. I'm wondering, like everybody else.
I'll tell you, I'm kind of in your camp, Laura. Have you ever used this tool? Have you ever played with it?
No.
You have to do the research. It's not as smart as they make it sound.
I'm kind of scared to do it on my work computer.
You have to find the data to insert in there.
Yeah.
And then it will do the mechanics of writing.
Exactly. And so, if you're freed, if a student is freed up to just find the data, then doesn't it empower them in a future where technology is at the forefront?
My daughter is a trauma registrar for a hospital. She's in the process of moving jobs, and she proceeded to use ChatGPT to write her cover letter because she was in a hurry. She had to go in and tell her about her experience, about her certifications, about all the information. It then spit out, quite bluntly, a wonderful cover letter from the information she provided. She had to go in and edit it because mechanics of writing, it's pretty good at, but there's still a few little things that it hasn't figured out. When they talk about the artist, I do have a problem because that to me is wrong if they're stealing other people's original ideas. But if they're just simply putting in information they found and it's doing the mechanic of writing, shall we go back and say spell check that we have with Word products are no longer valid?
Yeah, and I know a lot of my students use a program for producing the APA style formatting, the references. They use some kind of a search engine or something. I can't remember what it's called, but it basically creates the reference page for their papers. And yeah, why not take some of the mechanics out of it and allow the humans to do the creative side?
I'm interested in Jennifer's take on this from the English department side.
Well, George, I'm curious, and that's why I decided to join this meeting today because it's a hot topic. One of my students told me that she already knows of students who have used ChatGPT to write essays. I don't know if that's at GVC or other institutions, but something that students are already using. So definitely a concern, especially if they're claiming it's their own. I mean, if they're able to in any way cite that they're using this technology and give that credit, then I think that's a different conversation. But if they're just flat out stealing it and saying this is my own writing, then that's a problem.
Is there a way to cite it?
I don't know
Have
where
we
there
come
must
up with
be.
that
I
yet?
don't know enough about it yet, but I mean,
Yeah.
they're claiming Chat GPT gave me this paragraph, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I want my students to learn why data matters, you know, why we need evidence-based research. But I also want them, you know, to put that behind them and then use the skills that they're learning through the research to help clients and to make a difference in the lives of the clients that they work with. So I don't know. I feel like it's important to have an open mind, but not so open that you know, your brain falls out or whatever.
This reminds me of when I was in my undergraduate second statistics class. Professor was showing us how to use Excel to do a regression analysis. And his statement at the time was, there's a big formula that you know, does all this, but you're never going to have to use that. You just need to know how to interpret the results that you're getting out of the spreadsheet. Well, so then got into a master's program, and lo and behold, the master's level professor expected us to know that formula and how to make it work and all that. He expected us to be able to know how the computer does what it does, and we didn't. And so that would be my concern here, is that you know, we might end up with a really nice sounding paper, but if you've foregone the mechanics of how to make that work and come up with the ideas on your own, and even something as simple as you know, the proper formatting of a Word document, we're forfeiting something if we go down that path.
Well, if you're relying upon the machine to create your essay for you, then are you going to also be relying upon the machine to grade itself afterwards? Because there's not going to be anybody left that understands how to write if we're relying upon this to do it the whole time.
Yeah, what kind of teachers are you going to have in 15 years if they were this kind of a student now?
And that for me, like, I mean, I think that was a good point, Laura, where you said you definitely have to have an open mind. Somebody's going to figure it out. You know what I mean? We're trying not to mess with genes supposedly in the United States, but meanwhile they're making people over in China that can't get AIDS, you know? So I mean, somebody else is going to end up doing it and messing with it at some point in time. So we got to figure it out. But I think what's going to end up happening in a lot of cases, it's going to be just like the overuse of acronyms nowadays, and going all back to the Orwellian 1984 type stuff, where people use an acronym and they don't even understand what it means. And the acronym becomes the word that people use, and they don't even understand what's behind it, or, you know, that bothers me quite a bit. Same thing, you know, on a smaller scale, most all of us couldn't figure out, you know, other people's phone numbers, maybe even our own, because now we just use cell phones and it's all automated. So if you ever get into a position where you don't have the machine or the technology, you're unable to survive almost. And that's terrifying to me.
Yeah, and I think that there's also kind of a surface understanding that happens when you don't go more in depth. Like if students aren't thoroughly reading material and thoroughly understanding enough to come up with the paper themselves, then they're missing a depth of understanding that they get. You know, I mean, I feel like my brain works differently when I write longhand than when I write on the computer or when I do voice to text. You know, I feel like my brain, so writing longhand is a much more creative process for me. And I learned that doing clinical social work, writing out, you know, my notes from a session, I would find solutions for my client through that handwritten process that I didn't find when I typed up notes, that I didn't find when I did voice to text, you know? And I mean, I think a good example, Mike, is so like the term drink the Kool-Aid, you know? I mean, the younger generation uses that all the time, but I was a kid when they put poison in Guyana, in the Kool-Aid, in the grape Kool-Aid. And I'm telling you, my mom forevermore called Kool-Aid Guyana juice. And so, you know, that whole drink the Kool-Aid thing, if you understand, you know, James Jones, the massacre and where it came from, it means a whole lot more than if you just understand this surface version, like you were talking about the acronyms in 1984. So anyway, just some thoughts.
thought that I have regarding this is that it's going to challenge us as educators to find ways to still insist on and be able to assess the actual knowledge of the student. Like the video said, it could become a bit of an arms race. We might have to establish markers along the way that that the student has to demonstrate on their own that they have that knowledge on their own. And this speaks, I think, to the value of a flipped classroom. If you're having the students do their homework in class, then you're observing them do it, rather than that they're handing you something and you don't know where it came from.
Yeah, I think it's weird because it's very similar. In my head, I think about like sports, so like MMA, and then back when McGuire and Canseco and those guys were hitting home runs, that it's very similar to steroids because it's performance enhancing, and they only allow certain people to fight in certain leagues, and those are people who have been tested, you know, for blah 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 purposes. But then they have other areas where they're using steroids for, you know, they don't care, or they're trying to figure out ways to get around the testing. So I don't know.
Well, we still haven't answered my question from before, from last week, and that is, at what point are we replaced as instructors?
So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is another question in our presentation today. So before I go back to the Satori presentation, which is really what I'm using to guide this discussion, I wanted to show you, can you see on the screen the responses that ChatGPT gave me to my prompt? Write a 100-word essay about how to use ChatGPT to write an essay. Can you all see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what I did is I actually gave the same prompt 2 times, the same exact prompt twice, and it gave me 2 different responses. So I just thought that was interesting, because it's not necessarily referencing itself. It's going back to whatever source information that, you know, that is pulling from, and it's recreating a response to that question. So every time, so even if you had, say, 20 students, and you could even do this as an in-class exercise if you so wished, or so were so daring. And that's a topic for a whole nother conversation, right? Is, well, how can we use ChatGPT in our classroom to support our learning? We might not quite get to that question today, but I just wanted to show you this is what it, basically returned back to me based on my prompts. So I'm going to go back to the Satori. Hopefully you can see the Satori again. Yes, Carl? Okay, thank you. So the next question is about, how do you think AI will impact higher education? And I had a video in here. Will AI replace teachers? There it is. So I think this one's pretty short, so let's go ahead and watch this one.
Will AI replace teachers? As a futurist, I help many organizations in the education sector with their strategy. But I'm also a dad of 3 children at school, a school governor, and I'm married to a teacher. So this topic is very close to my heart. Popular media is full of stories about the potential of technology to replace humans in the workplace, including teachers. The truth is, machines can't replace the human touch that is necessary in our schools, and there's more to teaching than a simple knowledge transfer. Instead of feeling scared of AI, teachers and education professionals should look at it as a powerful tool for delivering better, more personalized learning experiences and lifting some of the enormous administrative burden currently placed on the shoulders of teachers. So let's look at ways artificial intelligence can augment the learning experiences of students and make teachers' lives easier. Taking over repetitive and structured administrative tasks like grading. With natural language processing, AI tools will even be able to read free-form text responses like written answers on tests or longer essays. Tracking student progress, AI can take grades of individual students and track progressions to identify development areas. Provide personalized learning. Even if they wanted to, teachers can't provide individual learning experiences when they are managing 30+ students in a classroom. But AI can help. There are several companies currently developing intelligent instruction design and digital platforms that provide learning, testing, and feedback to students from preschool to college level, based on the need of individual students. Making education more accessible. AI tools help to make education available to anyone, including those who speak different languages, have visual or hearing impairments, or need to interact with resources at their own pace. So AI in education has come a long way, but it won't be replacing teachers anytime soon. As machine learning and AI continue to advance, human interaction will become even more important. Only teachers can truly understand the nuances of what is happening in the minds of their students. Motivating students to learn, practice, and grow is a skill that is currently beyond the scope of any AI. High-quality human teachers have a wide range of motivational tactics that they can use to give students a jump start and keep them motivated throughout the school year. Having said that, we will see changes to the jobs of teachers as they increasingly work alongside AI. So the sooner teachers can get used to working alongside AIs and intelligent robots, the better. For more on AI, future trends, and the changing nature of education, subscribe to my YouTube channel, check out my website, or have a look at my book, Business Trends in Practice.
Okay, so
I feel like we're already kind of doing this with starfish.
Wait till we get the CRM. If you think starfish can do stuff.
Really? Wow. Okay. Yeah. But like my students respond to starfish with, "Wow, thank you." And it feels very personal to them. And I don't want to tell them otherwise, but I feel a little sheepish about it.
Yeah, so if we go back to our discussion question, our second discussion question, how do you think artificial intelligence will impact higher education? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Rita, we haven't heard from you yet. What do you think?
Sorry, I'm not feeling well, okay? So
Oh, that's fine. Sorry. Brandy.
Yeah, I can say a few words.
Okay. Go ahead, Rita.
Just give me 5. I was talking about this with my husband as to how this is. He's a technology guy, so I really don't know. I have given us essay to write. So my question is, will AI also draw for the students so that I can make necessary changes? Will they be able to draw the stuff? Can they do it, or only they can write it?
Well, and I think the answer to that question is, I think it's going to be a little bit more complex than a yes or no, because it depends on what the drawing is. There are, so ChatGPT is text-based.
Text-based, okay.
Yes, that's ChatGPT. That's only one type of AI. So there are a lot of different kinds of AI out there, and some of them are just for drawing and doing graphic design. There's AI for doing computer modeling. So for someone who does, maybe they want to design a game, a video game, they could actually use AI to create their characters and their background and everything, all of the graphics for their video game.
Yeah, I'm just asking you so that in future, what type of assignments do we give them so that we can grade it knowing that the students have done it? So just kind of thinking about it, and I'm wondering, like, if we gave them an exam, can they have something, a phone or something, where they can use an AI to find out an answer to something?
Yeah, so would anyone like to respond to that question?
My response would be, wouldn't lockdown browser prevent that?
No, they keep their cell phones also on the side.
But they can't transfer it into the computer.
Yeah, but you can just copy it, George. I mean, no disrespect to anybody about lockdown browser, but it doesn't take very long to figure out how to bypass it as a student, just across the board. I mean, if you did a poll for our students and asked them if they've been able to figure it out, I bet 80% of the people have found a way to circumvent the process.
I had a case last year. Where the student hooked on their laptop to the screen in the other room with the HDMI cable. So he was taking the test, but that screen was projected on the computer, on the TV screen, and there was somebody sitting in the next room who was prompting the answers to the student.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, why are there two voices? Because I collect the voices. So I'm just thinking that this is complicated enough right now. So what's going to happen if this thing comes, and how do we test them? Or is it necessary to? This thing is all like, we'll have to change it. I think that's it. Like, what do we change to? That's it.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good question.
And Yvonne, I think, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
it's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
When I first started looking into this, because I was talking to our security and trying to show them how amazing it is, right? And it sounds like the same companies that are pushing money into pushing this technology are not that unintelligent that they're not going to create something that will also defend against it and make money off of that. So that's, you always got to think about that. They want to build something, but they want to make money. They're profit driven. They're not creating this technology and pushing it and investing all this money because they want to make things easier for us. I mean,
and Mike, to your point there, I had read where already a student had come up with kind of anti-plagiarism software for professors to be able to tell if this essay had been written by chat instead of the students. So you like you said, it's already in the works.
I'm really glad that you guys are already going there, because that happens to be the next question for our discussion. How will you know if a student completed an assignment or if AI did it for them? So this isn't necessarily specific to taking a quiz or a test, but I think it encompasses, any student work. How do you know if they did it or if they had some help? So there's actually another little video about that. So let's watch that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another ChatGPT tutorial. In this one, I'm going to show you the two, what I believe are the best ways to detect plagiarism. If you're an educator or a teacher and you want to see if somebody might be using some extra help, here's a way to do it. Here's two ways, in fact. And if you're a student, do your homework. You don't need to use this to cheat. Anyways, let's get on with this, morality aside. Here we go. The first method is by hugging face. This is a GPT-2 output detector demo. Please note that says GPT-2 and that matters. So while I hit the button here, you're going to see that it gives me a real percentage of 3.44 and a fake probability of 96.56. There's no absolutes in this. So, busting somebody or getting busted is, there's still some wiggle room in there, but it did a very good job. That said, it's using the GPT 3.2 version, and right now ChatGPT is up to 3.5. So keep that in the back of your head. The second version, or the second tool I like to use, is GPT-0. This is a more recent tool, and this one was created by Edward Tian in Princeton. He's a student at Princeton University. And yeah, he created this, and it's pretty damn wild. It's going to run here at the top. What does it do? It checks for perplexity, and it checks for burstiness. These are the two things that it looks for. Perplexity, as you can read here, is the randomness of the text. It's a measurement of how well a language model like ChatGPT can predict. And what did I say? Yeah, predict a sample text. And yeah, and burstiness is basically, it's just checking, well, anyways, you guys can read it, but it exhibits non-common items that appear in random clusters. That's the gist of it. That said, I clicked on ChatGPT, get the result. It's going to take a few seconds, and I will come back when it's ready. All right, welcome back. So the result is GPT has finished analyzing. Your text is most likely to be AI generated. Busted. All right, guys, again, there's no absolutes in this, and you can argue either way, but we did a full test on it. It gave us a score of 19.009, which doesn't mean a lot because who knows what that means on any X and Y graph. But note that it gives us a score right up to the end of this little line here, so it's about 96%, same as the Hugging Face GPT-2 detector. Thanks for watching.
Rita, you're shaking your head.
Wondering what else is going to come and how do you, how much do you battle?
Yeah.
So Yvonne, I don't know if anywhere in here, but Adriana was actually just talking yesterday about, because obviously Google already has quite a bit of AI built into it. And she was talking about how the cameras on our phones, every single time you're taking a picture. So a lot of people back during the last full moon and whenever that Venus thing was happening, were taking photos with their phones, and they're getting these great detail. But what they didn't realize is that Google's AI had went in, just in your basic phone and actually changed the real picture because it's already using the AI and producing the photo. So when you're taking a photo of something, because of the AI that's already built into their systems, you're not even getting the real thing. So it's that scares me, that you're looking at a picture of the moon that you literally just took with your phone, and that's not really what it looks like. I mean, it's small, but
does that work with selfies?
Yeah, I was going to say, and here I thought I was taking a great picture.
Right.
Yeah, can it erase wrinkles? That'd be great.
I think it kind of does, and it's especially when they're doing like movement, when it's trying to put something together, or maybe you're taking one of those panoramic photos and you can see how sometimes it messes it up if you do it the wrong way, but it's there's already been a little bit of it, and I mean that's how they're getting a lot of the other information when they're pulling up search results too, is some of that's, I mean, it's already there a little bit, and that I like, it scares me just about as much as Rita, I think, so I did think back to the other thing though, the language thing I thought was might end up being one of the things that I think is, the most positive, that maybe George and Rita and Brandy and Jen are able to teach people in other countries or that have the language barrier through using this, and they can basically be doing the exact same thing they can when they're teaching English, but yet somebody that speaks Mandarin can be taught, by these professors. I think that was really cool. I do think that guy, his argument sucked. I don't think he did a very good job of proving to me that AI wasn't going to take over teachers, because every single time he made an argument, it was currently or yet, and there was really nothing backing it up that it couldn't eventually figure that out. I mean, that's what scares me, because he's talking about this whole human touch and everything else. Well, if this thing's constantly figuring new things out at a rate that's much quicker than we're able to, I just don't see how, I don't know, that I thought his argument was pretty poor.
Yeah, I want to jump in just real quick to the conversation.
Yeah, please do.
I think what really freaks me out when I think about writing is that students lose their voice because it's doing, it does all the writing for them. And I feel like what I've noticed with my, first year comp students is they just have such a hard time trying to come up with their own ideas and their own words. And it's just too easy for them to just let an AI generate everything. Oh, I'm good. And they're losing that skill. They're not even going to learn it. So that really frightens me. And also that last video on how to detect the plagiarism, I was completely lost. I had no idea what he was talking about. So my students would probably be able to fool me maybe. I don't know. And that scares me too.
So Jennifer, my thought on that is, what is it that the student actually wants? If all they're looking for is a grade, then absolutely they're going to do whatever they need to do to get it, and they don't care. But if they actually want to learn something, then they put in the effort. And so my question is, what kind of world do our learners today want to have in 15 or 20 years? One where they cheated their way through everything, and now they're the ones who are in charge of everything. It becomes a moral question of what kind of a world do you want to live in, because that's what you're creating. You're creating the world you want to live in.
I disagree. I had a conversation with my stepson who came in last week. So he keeps on asking me, and I kind of he was telling me that everybody cheats in college. So I said, then we were telling him it's not right to cheat. We want to learn. We are paying in so much money so that you learn certain skills and all. He says, but no, why should I learn anything? But like, why should I learn certain things? Whatever I want to learn, I will learn when I'm working. Why should I learn so much information in the school? That is the point. And he says, everybody cheats. And why should I work hard when everybody is cheating? So we were saying, no, it's not right. Look at us. We have studied so hard. We have come. He says, that's your way. You are immigrants. You worked hard. It's okay. But no, we don't want to do it. We have everything at a that is this thing which struck us, is that we have all the technology at hand. Why should not we use it? And why should we not use for answering a question? And I was like, again, I keep on doing so many essay questions because the multiple choice questions are out and students cheat. They take a picture of the quiz they are done and then they circulate. I try to bring essay questions. So I try to do all the things possible so that they don't cheat. But then to tell you, the students have started cheating, and this is more now after COVID than it was before COVID. I don't know what's happened in that COVID time, but students are cheating and they do not have any, they do not feel guilty about it. Oh, they are cheating, they're doing something wrong or something. That thing has gone after COVID. I don't know what has happened. And again, this is not the phenomenon in just US. It's there everywhere. Even in India, when I talk to people, there is a change which has taken place after COVID. And so I don't think so. That moral compass is gone. I think so. And many of my students, I can just tell you that how many students cheat by the way they write their answers. So now I have to spend extra time for just one chapter to make, at least, like if there are 30 students, I have to make a question bank of essay questions because those questions are not out there. If there are 30 students, then I have to make a question bank of 40 questions. And I have to keep on grading everything. So that morality is gone. I think we are dealing in a different world. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is an open discussion, so thank you for sharing your perspective. We do have just like 15 minutes left in our conversation today, so I did want to get to our question about, can AI tools be used in a positive way to inform and enhance curriculum and instruction? So I just wanted to share with you part of the video. We're not going to watch the whole video, but this is how Khan Academy is incorporating AI into their actual online, I guess I'll call it coursework, for lack of a better term. Let's see what they're doing.
Sal here, and I wanted to show you an in-depth demo of the new AI that we have happening throughout Khan Academy. And what you're going to see is that it exists in two ways. One is helping students and learners and teachers with many of the things that people are already familiar with Khan Academy. And as we'll see, also introducing a whole new series of activities that you can now do with the artificial intelligence. So what I see here, what we see here is a classic Khan Academy exercise, but you notice there's this little bot here. So we could click on that. I'm here to help you with this exercise. Here are a few ideas or things that you can ask me, and you could ask any of those things. But I think what's really interesting is its ability to be a thoughtful tutor. So if I just say, tell me the answer, exclamation mark, I'm very entitled here. Oh, I see you're eager to find the answer, but remember, I'm here to help you learn how to solve it on your own. Let's start by looking at the equation. What do you think the first step should be? So notice, it's really doing what you would expect a good tutor to be. And let me actually do a mistake here. So let's do 3 minus, this is a common mistake when distributing, only multiplying it times the first term, minus 18 plus 2m is equal to m. It says, oops, it looks like there's a small mistake when you distributed the -2 inside the parentheses. Put an upside down smiley face. Make sure you distribute the -2 to both terms in the parentheses. The correct distribution would be this. Try again and let me know if you need help. You got this. And then if I were to write 3 minus 18 minus 4m is equal to m. Great job. You distributed the -2 correctly this time. Now you have the following. What do you think the next step should be to solve for m? So as you can tell, this is really doing what we think a really thoughtful tutor would do. And this doesn't just work in math. This works across all subjects that Khan Academy has. Now, it's not just exercises. This is going to sound like an infomercial. I'm going to keep saying, and there's more. You could do this with videos. This is just a classic Khan Academy video that hopefully many of y'all are familiar with. You can do fun things like write a poem about this video. And so notice, in both the previous example, where where I got help with the problem, it already had the context of the problem. It knows what I'm already doing on Khan Academy. Likewise here, it already knows about the video. It's able to understand what's actually in the contents of the video. It wrote a very nice poem here. In the land of math where equations play, a problem arose one sunny day. -9 minus 9x minus 6, a challenge to solve, a puzzle to fix. On the other hand, that's actually, as you can see here, that's actually the actual problem that is in this video. On the other side,
So let's just discuss that a little bit. Like, what do you think is the value of AI when it comes to enhancing what we do with education, whether that's online education or whether that's in person? Can AI be used in a positive way? And do you think that example was a positive example of how to use AI in instruction? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think it can be used in a positive way. And I thought that video was a good example of that.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
I was just kind
Jennifer.
of like, of course, Khan Academy's already like ahead of this and they've
Right.
got it. I mean, like, duh. So
So, Mike, what do you think?
I mean, I agree for the most part, but I also I remember because my daughter's in 5th grade right now, and so she in some things she's learning a little to do math a little bit differently than I am, or I did. And so it was a real struggle trying to help her at home because of like the different technique, right?
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to something like writing, like where Jennifer was talking about her voice, when it comes to even something that is as universal as math, I think that that at least for a little while, what it's going to end up producing is very homogeneous answers, and it's going to create a very stock method to accomplish things when there's a lot more out there. And I think that that's what these chats or chat boxes already do, is that there's zero personality in it. And there's little things like you saw the arm and everything, which is definitely something that would show up on a text from my daughter. But also that's now everybody's daughter would have that same thing. And I think that at least in the short term, it's going to have an issue of stripping away the personality from people. And it's going to awkwardly enough have the ability to limit the the ways that we can accomplish things and the ways that we think about things by providing us this stock, way to do it all the time. I don't think that's always going to exist. I think that there's ways around that and there's ways to create. But just in looking at that means that everybody that's going through this Khan Academy is getting a very similar approach. It's almost like it read the exact book, but the answer doesn't really have any type of personality to me. And I think that's one reason why there are professors, because they are human beings. Like, the better ones are able to do a good job at it. But at the same time, I also think that everybody's a little bit different. So I can see the positives of it, but again, I do think it's going to be stripping away a little bit of the personality and the options that people have.
Carl, what are your thoughts? Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Brandy, and Jennifer as well.
Well, I keep coming back to this notion of what does the future look like for our current learners, and at its root, they are building the world that they will soon be living in. And so, Rita mentioned, and I agree, that it is a question of morality. But the moral compass doesn't always seem to be there. Well, that's true. But the bottom line is we have to decide individually and as a collective group what kind of world do we want to live in. And so I often ask myself the question, what would the world be like if everybody acted and behaved and believed exactly as I do? It would be, I wouldn't want to live in that world. To be boring, even though, I think some of it would be perfect. But so, what kind of world do we want to live in? Because that's what we're going to be creating. And the bottom line is we have to be productive in some way. As citizens, as workers, we have to be productive. We are not going to be able to survive on information alone. So we still have to do all the things that are required to support a society and have the infrastructure and the resources and all that. And that isn't going to go away regardless of how much AI we have helping us. So we have to maintain a measure of our historical structure. I'll say I don't want to say traditional values, but our historical infrastructure. We have to maintain some of that. That's my Sunday school lesson.
Well, that reminds me of a quote that I'm going to just again share briefly the Satori presentation. And I actually embedded a couple of quiz questions. If you're so inclined to take the little quiz just to see what it's like, that would be fine. I'm not going to grade it, I promise. But it's just kind of an interesting thing that you can, a way that you can see how Satori can be used. Here, let me share my screen again and make sure I'm doing the right one this time. So one of the formats, they actually have a couple different formats in Satori for doing an online poll or a quiz. So I just embedded a little poll and also a quiz. And in the quiz, it's a matching quiz. So I put some quotes that were in some of the videos that we watched. And we didn't get to, of course, all the videos because I plugged in a lot of different information into that Satori so that you're not limited to just what we discussed today here in this session, but you're welcome to go to that Satori, click on that link that's in your email anytime, the one that says the future is now. And you can scroll through it and just kind of pick and choose what topics you're interested in. But there was a quote that was in one of the videos, and I really liked this quote. We put a lot of our information into books, but the books can't run it for us. And so we always have to teach the next generation. If you work it out, it's about 1 trillion person years of teaching and learning and an unbroken chain that goes back tens of thousands of generations. What happens if that chain breaks? So I think that goes to what Carl was just describing. Maybe phrases it a little bit differently, but what happens if AI basically takes over learning and history and what our pictures look like? And we'll just kind of leave on that thought. And we just have a few more questions left. So if you have any parting thoughts on that or on anything else, then please feel free to jump in and share. Any parting thoughts?
I would just.
It was a great discussion and presentation. So thanks,
I would
Yvonne and
just
Carl.
tell you all to watch that last YouTube video of the two AI characters talking to each other. It's
pretty interesting.
It's pretty interesting.
Yep. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and we really appreciate your sharing your thoughts and your comments. And I think this is something that we can keep this conversation going. If you want to add your comments into that Sutori, there is actually a place like with each video and
Mm-hmm.
each article where you can add comments. So it can actually become more like a discussion board where you can have conversations with others who might be interested in the same topic and access the same Sutori board, and it can actually be a discussion post kind of a tool. So thank you again, and really enjoyed your input into our discussion today. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy your spring break.